Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Social Circus. I am your host, Sarah Thomson, and each and every week you get to join me. And today I also have a very special guest. I'm so thrilled to welcome Nina from Mindful Parenting Lifestyle. Welcome, Nina.
Hi, Sarah. So good to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you on here because I know that in my audience are busy mums who are going to love listening to your words of wisdom today. So I'm going to throw it back to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business, if that's okay.
Of course. So I'm Nina, and I am a mum of three little boys. At the moment, they are 3, 5, and 7. And I really started my business as to be able to spend more time with them, but also to be able to share the things that I've learned to make my life easier when looking after them, to be able to share that with other mums and dads, because it's really been a big change in my life and learning particular skills. And it's been a life changer. And I really wanted to be able to help other people to experience this life-changing transformation in the hope that it will make their life easier and more fulfilled and joyful.
Yeah. So you started your business on the back of being a really busy mum with 3 very young children, didn't you? So do you want to tell us what led you to finding mindful parenting?
Yeah. My youngest had just been born. So at that stage I had a 3.5, a 1.5, and a newborn.
Wow.
And I was struggling. Like, obviously that's hard, but I felt like all I was doing was yelling, feeling guilty about yelling some more, being upset with myself. And I wasn't enjoying being a parent because I was caught up in these feelings of anger and resentment and guilt and frustration. And I stumbled across a mindful parenting course when I was looking for something to help me. And I completed an 8-week program. And it, as I said before, it just changed my life. And a year later, I was given the opportunity to train to teach that very same course to parents.
Wow.
Which was very exciting.
Oh, I love hearing that because I'm a mum. I've got teenage boys now, but obviously when I started my business, they were 3 and 5. So it was very different to what it looks like now. And I know those feelings. Like, I think, and I'm hoping all my listeners are feeling some sense of relief, because often the way in which we parent, we feel incredible guilt about, and you kind of think, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. It's super hard. And it's incredibly stressful. And if we throw into the mix, which most of our listeners have, running and starting a business, it all becomes really incredibly difficult. And I would just share with the listeners, Nina, like myself, works at home. And before we started recording, she said, I've got some help here so that my son doesn't run in during the podcast and interrupt because he'll want to. And that's what it looks like behind the scenes, isn't it? That we're often juggling things and trying to present our best self. And that, I think, adds a whole nother layer of stress and trauma on top of things.
Yeah, we can feel so overwhelmed when we're at home, and we can feel like things are getting on top of us. But then when we go to work, we want to appear confident and calm and, all knowing and on top of things. Whereas in the back end, there's always those views when you look in people's podcast, in the camera, and you turn the camera around, there's washing over there, there's dirty dishes over there. And it's really about being able to make peace with those 2 parts of your life, and being able to own it if you're struggling and not feel that you have to hide away. I think that's really important.
I love that advice, because I think I'm really lucky in that I'm an incredibly organized person, but I'm not one of those people that needs to live in a really clean and tidy home, which is great because I've got 2, incredibly chaotic boys who have challenged me every step of the way, that I'm okay with that. But I think, as if we work at home, all of that becomes another layer of complexity in terms of how we thought we were going to parent. Because most of us who started a business with children started it because we wanted to be more present with our children. And that's our big dream, isn't it? And that was what you said as well. Like, you wanted to start your business because of this. So when things don't go to plan, talk about what does that look and feel like, and how do we manage that? Because we have beautiful expectations. I know I was really excited to be a mum. It was not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think so. When things don't go to plan, like with our parenting, and we can get really down on ourselves, and I think it's just important to have that self-compassion and to realize that you're not the only one that's going through this. There's other parents that are struggling with swallow training. There's other parents that are struggling with kids walking into Zoom meetings. You know, there's other parents that struggle with school drop-off, for example, that you're not alone. And to be mindful and just acknowledge, you know, I'm going through a difficult time right now. It's okay. I'm allowed to have a difficult time, and just accepting it for what it is. This too shall pass, that famous saying that everyone...
Oh, yes. I love that. And I think I always make a joke that when you have children under 5, your marriage is like being in the trenches, like you're alongside each other. And a whole lot of your communication with your partner revolves around managing people's timetables and functional information. Like, you know, James has got swimming today. Can you just check he's got his swimming things in his school?
Yes.
Like all of that boring conversations. And all of that can create a whole lot of, again, more resentment in our relationships with our partners as well. And so when you're talking about mindful parenting, have you found that that flows into the other aspects of our life? Because I have to say, working with you, you're always so incredibly calm.
Yeah. You know what, Sarah? I didn't realize I was a calm person. I mean, I've been doing the course, but I didn't realize how much it had affected me until I was doing some volunteer work with the local toy library. And we were having our annual stock take day, and it was all crazy. People everywhere, kids everywhere, all the toys out on the grass. And one of the ladies in the committee, she said, "Nina, you're so calm. How can you be so calm? You're exuding calm." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I am." And so being able to bring that calmness, you know, pausing in the moment, as I said, accepting things as the way they are, not trying to forcibly change them. That's where it can be really helpful to bring it into your other relationships. So if I'm having a disagreement with my husband, I can accept to and listen to his point of view without feeling that I have to force my opinion onto him. We can share that calmly. In mindful parenting, we do a lot of active listening and using I messages to communicate what we need, and then to also listen to what our kids need. But as well, you know, that applies to your partner.
Definitely.
And showing compassion to them too.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because every interaction I always have with you, and I know that you're not 100% calm all of the time, but you have such a lovely calm energy that you bring to everything that we do together. I really always enjoy our interactions. But do you feel like that's something that you actively work at to be calmer, or is it something now that's it's like a muscle memory?
A little bit of both, Sarah. So when I first started mindfulness, because it's really mindfulness is the key. So having a regular mindfulness practice is the key to being able to choose calm in those moments instead of choose anger or frustration. So when I first started, I was doing just 3 minutes a day. That's all I could manage. I thought it was a bit hoo-ha. I was like, I don't really think this is going to work. I'm just going to try it, but I don't think it's going to work. I gradually have built up. So over time, I was getting up to 20 minutes a day, but then you get to the school holidays, for example, and I would stop practicing because I'd be like, I'm on holidays. I'm not going to do this anymore. And then gradually I would notice that my calmness it wasn't as easy to find that calm. I was being triggered a lot more often.
Yeah.
So then I had to reset and start the practice again. And so I can always tell when I haven't been practicing, because I find that I get triggered a lot quicker than when I have been practicing.
So interesting. Yeah, I try and do, I'm not great at meditation because I have a busy mind, which I know means I need it more than ever. So I do tapping, which is much more active meditation. And I find my brain loves that. And I try and do 30 minutes a day. And I'm very much feel the same as you, Nina, that if I miss a few days, I start to feel like I start to lose my positive, healthy mojo. And it's really interesting. I'm like you. I always thought, people that talk about meditation, that's like, so that well done them. That's not for me. I'm not that person. And then once you actually find the habit and the routine, it makes such a big difference, doesn't it, in that mindfulness? So you talked, I was going to ask you another question. You talked a little bit about triggers, because that is such an interesting thing. And I know exactly what my triggers are with my son. Mine's nagging, and that really triggers me, and it turns me into like a sociopath in about 30 seconds if I have to keep asking. Mainly because I have teenagers now, and I shouldn't have to like with little children, you definitely have to repeat instructions, but becoming aware of those triggers, how do we, like if we're like a lot of parents with young children, we're at a high in terms of our emotions, they're simmering really below the surface, aren't they? So how do we start to become aware, because maybe everything's triggering us right now?
Yeah, there's a few ways. One is to just have a journal that you keep on the kitchen bench or maybe in your bedside table, and reflecting back on your day and thinking, when have I yelled throughout the day? So I might have yelled at 10 o'clock. I yelled at my son. What did I say? So I might have said, clean up your mess. But then asking questions like, were you hungry? Were you tired? Was he hungry? Was he tired? Was there underlying cause behind that? Maybe you wanted a tidy house because you had friends coming over. Maybe you wanted a tidy house because you just need that to be peaceful inside. So reflecting back on why you might have yelled and seeing if there's any patterns. So you might notice that you yell at your kids every day at 3:30. That's because you've just picked them up from school. You want them to be quiet, but you're trying to work at the same time. And you notice that at that time every day. So then you can implement strategies at 3:30 to make sure that you're in a place where you don't need to yell. So you might get some colouring activities ready for them. You might just decide to pop the TV on. You might make sure that you're fed because maybe you're hungry and that's why you get cranky sooner, you know.
I love that journal idea. It's so good.
Another thing to do is to look back at your childhood. So think about how you were raised and any kind of values that your parents may have had that you don't have, but they're still ingrained in you. So an example I talk about, which is in the book Raising Good Humans, is if you've got a daughter and she's wearing her beautiful dress and she goes to play in the mud, do you automatically get cranky at her for playing in the mud? Because when you were little, you weren't allowed to get dirty when you were wearing your pretty dress, because maybe it takes ages to do the washing, or you're going to church or something or other. Whereas like for me personally, it doesn't bother me when my boys get dirty clothes because I can wash them and I've got more backup. And it's not a big deal for me because I want them to have fun and explore the mud, you know, and get all dirty and throw mud around and stuff like that.
So interesting.
Some days I don't want them to do that.
I know. I actually, we look back at a lot of our photos from when the boys were little quite often. And one of the things that my youngest son always says is, why are we always in our undies? And I'm like, because if there was water, I could not keep you out of it. And so I used to make them strip down because they wore those little, the little boxer short ones. So they weren't just running. But I always had towels and change of the clothes in the car. Because I realised that all I was going to do was torment myself and my children if we went somewhere and there was water and they weren't allowed to play in it. And it was something I made peace with very young, mainly because my older one was just super, super stealth, in that I would just look away and he would be like, hi, he'd be standing there. So it was really interesting, that acceptance, because I know as a child, my mum loved us to look clean and tidy because we lived in a small town and she was a teacher, and I think she felt that her children couldn't look like ragamuffins. And it was a letting go process, because we used to go out and my husband used to be like, oh my gosh, they're always running around looking like crazy. And I'm like, I think it matters. They're loved and I know that they're well taken care of. They just look a bit hectic.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a really great example of knowing what your trigger is. I don't want them to get dirty. You know, I don't want them to get messy. So I'm going to make a change and change the environment, you know, change what they're wearing, and knowing that it doesn't bother me if they're wearing their undies in public. That's fine. You know, that's a really great example.
Thank you. And with us running our business around our children, I think that and I know that I definitely did this, and because I've been working at home for so long now, I'm really good at it. But I think we often set ourselves and our children up to fail. And I know that you will say today is a good day for you to do a podcast interview because you've only got one child at home and you've brought in extra help. So you have set yourself up for, we're nearly through the interview, but it's for you to have a really good podcast interview. So you've done lots of things to set yourself up for success. And I sometimes think we don't do that. And then when it all goes pear-shaped, it's like, wow, did I really think that was going to work?
Yeah, that's right. So I guess it's about knowing what your kids can handle and knowing what you can handle as well. I know I can sneak away maybe for an hour of work if they're at home, But any longer than that, and they're going to be in here wanting to do stuff with me. And that's fair enough. Like, I'm happy to have that 1 hour, in the weekends or something, just to get something done. But knowing what we can both handle is a really good way to just start off. And then as they get more used to you working, then they may be able to handle more. Or you may realize that you actually are resenting that hour that you're working and you want to be with them. So then you can change your mindset to spend more time with them. But I think having a clear plan of how you're going to manage that is really important, and trying to stick to it as best you can.
I love that. And I love actually asking yourself, because I sometimes think we forget when we run a business, we're allowed to make decisions on how we work. And I actually had one of my very first business coaches when I was very new in business. She asked us in a group coaching session, if you could choose to work, what would you choose to work? And most of them said, oh, I would just work school hours. And she goes, wouldn't you take a day off for yourself? And she sowed the seed really early on that we're allowed to take some time out just to breathe and to be a functional human being that's not an exhausted mum. And those ideas of what can we handle and what can our children handle, I don't think sometimes, because we often start a business having come out of like employment where this is where you show up to work, this is what you have to do. And we don't give ourselves that flexibility. And I think we could be really open to that. And I know, like you were saying, it's okay to do an hour on the weekend if that fits in. So what's some of your advice in terms of, I think you run a really successful business around your family, and I really admire that. And is that something that you're definitely learning as you're going?
Definitely, yeah. My youngest started kindy this year, so now we're in a whole new ball game of trying to figure out and navigate how my work week is going to look. Yeah. When I had a child in daycare, I could put my other boys in before and after school care, and I'd have a whole day. Yeah. Whereas now I've just got the school hours, and then I have to make the choice: do I want to work in the evenings if I need to do extra things, or I want to work on the weekends? And being really clear to my husband, every Wednesday I run a live coaching session with people in my membership. So that Wednesday night he has to put the kids in bed, and we make that decision together that that's how it's going to work, and we alternate our bedtime routine around that. I'm actually excited this term. I don't have to rush off and take anyone to daycare at 7 o'clock. We can actually have nice, quiet mornings and get the kids to school by 9, because I get to take them all to the same place. Yeah. And then I can come back, So it's making those choices and figuring out how I want it to look and tweaking it as I go, he's in school's alternate Wednesdays. Do I want to try to get him cared for on the alternate Wednesdays, or do I want to spend that time with him? And picking and choosing and being able to, like you said, last year I took a day off to go to the cricket for a whole day. Yes. And that felt really liberating. I don't have to ask permission from anybody to take a day off to go to the cricket. I have to ask to get tickets. But, being able to do that has been amazing, life-changing.
I love that. And one of the things that I've really been struggling with over the last few months, and I think this is a thing as a parent that's not talked about and we don't really acknowledge, is the change to our routine. So like you were saying, your son's just started kindy and it's all changed. So my eldest has just finished school and is going to university, and my younger one is going into year 11, and he's not at school completely full-time because he's doing some vet courses. And so suddenly things like, you get really, really comfortable. Like, this is the routine. The kids walk in at, 3:30, and this is what my day looks like. And then it all changes. And I'm going to admit it because I'm kind of feel silly, but it's actually really hard to adjust to those changes. And I sometimes think we don't give ourselves any compassion around that.
Yeah, I agree. It's really hard because people are in their comfort zone, and to get out of your comfort zone and try something new, it takes bravery and courage to be able to do that. And especially if it doesn't go according to plan for the first couple of weeks, there's a couple of road bumps along the way. And I guess that's where
you were saying that drop-off didn't go well this morning. But
I spent an extra half an hour at school trying to get my son into his class. And I could be frustrated about that. I could be really annoyed that I've lost half an hour of my workday, or I could flip it and I could say I gained half an hour supporting my son, showing him the kindness and compassion that he needed. And so that's a good way of reflecting on your roadblocks and things that get in your way to doing the work that you want to. Is, can you flip it to think of the good thing that came out of that situation instead of what you lost? What did you gain? if the plan didn't go according to plan. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. What did you gain? And it is really hard, those change of routines. And I know, we're in the first quarter of the year at the moment. And so there has been lots of change to most of our lives when we have children because, school or whatever has resumed. And so is that something you think we should be journaling to see how we're feeling, or what's some advice on how we manage all of that, apart from flipping it on its head, which I love?
Yeah. Look, journaling's a great tool to use. A nightly journal to think about how you went, any changes that you could have made to your plan. Even just having a gratitude journal and focusing, spending a lot of time focusing on the positive things. We've got a gratitude jar, so we all put what we're grateful for into the jar, or we talk about gratitude at night. And so you can share that with your family as a good way to be able to reflect on what's happened. Another great one that I might just share is the rose, thorn and bud. Have you heard of that one?
No, do share.
So the rose is something that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
Thorn is something that was challenging throughout your day. And then the bud is something that you're looking forward to tomorrow. So that's a great one that you can reflect on, by yourself and get really deep on things, work, life, etc. But it's also a good one that you can share around the table with the family. You could each take it in turn to do your rose, thorn and bud kind of practice.
Oh, what a lovely analogy to look at it. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And I've not come across that at all before. And I really like the idea because part of the gratitude that we do as our family is what are we looking forward to tomorrow? That's one, which is the bud.
Yeah.
And, it's a really nice way to set yourself up for a successful day to kind of go, oh, I do have this thing that I'm looking forward to. And I find when I get very, very busy, I lose perspective on what have I got coming up because I'm got my head down and I forget to go, oh, tomorrow I've got a lovely event going to tonight. It's going to be really good, but I'm too busy with my head down and not having that gratitude. So is gratitude something that is obviously it's a huge part of mindfulness in terms of parenting. Is that something you incorporate into what it is that you teach?
It is, yeah. Yeah. So in my membership, we have regular gratitude kind of prompts in our Facebook group. And in our mindful parenting course, we do gratitude meditations. We brainstorm gratitude ideas and learn about, why gratitude is so helpful for us.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think gratitude is one of those things that we treat maybe a little bit like meditation, like, I'm not sure about it. I'm going to do it anyway. And then the effects really start to compound, don't they?
They do. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love it. Now, Nina, I have loved talking to you today, and I would love, so for all of my listeners, as usual, check out the show notes for all the links to Nina's socials, how you can work with her, check out her membership, which is an amazing opportunity to be part of a beautiful supportive group of parents, to have Nina guide you through mindful parenting. But if people would like to work with you, what have you got coming up in the next few months, and what would be a great opportunity?
Yeah, so soon I have the Mindful Parenting course is launching in March. So that's an 8-week group program where we meet every week for about 2 hours to go through the whole Mindful Parenting framework.
Yeah.
The membership is open all the time. So you can join the membership that's got weekly live sessions. And then I also have one-on-one coaching available where we can go through the whole mindful parenting framework as one-on-one or one-on-two if you want to do it with your partner as well.
Brilliant. Oh, look, amazing. Thank you so much, Nina. Look, I have loved having you on the podcast today and hearing your pearls of wisdom about parenting and being the best parent that we can be. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on and sharing all of your knowledge. I'm very grateful.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Pleasure. And to all of my listeners, thank you for tuning into the Social Circus each and every week. I always appreciate your support. And as always, you'll catch me the same time next week on the Social Circus.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thomson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.